self-sabotaging behavior. But before we get into it, let me welcome you again to the Eve Speaks platform. Here we believe that you should heal, aspire, and grow continuously, that we never arrive. We're always on a journey of becoming. And to that end, we are focusing on this topic of leaving current attitudes that are preventing us from getting what we want, also known as our altitude. Dr. Brown is going to give us a little recap of some of the things that we've talked about already. We talked about a few different self-sabotaging behaviors over the past few weeks. And so welcome, Dr. Brown. Thank you for joining us.
Always a pleasure to be here.
Of course. Pleasure to have you. And please, let's delve into this robust, worthy, and relevant conversation about how to get to our altitude by becoming more aware of our current attitude.
Sure.
So let's begin.
Okay. Well, yes, as Angela said, what we're trying to do is change our attitude so that we can move ahead in life and have the types of relationships and the types of lifestyle that we would like. Now, one of the things that interferes with our ability to have healthy relationships and to go after our goals are the way we think. And it's referred to in different ways, negative thinking, overthinking, cognitive distortions, worry. Basically, what it is just a tendency to worry. And what we mean by that is that we have more faith in things not working out than we have in things working out.
Wow.
And
more faith in things not working out. So either way, we have faith, is what you're saying.
Either way, we have faith. We either have faith that it's going to work or that it's not going to work. And how we arrive at that depends on our past experiences. Could be experiences at home where we learned inaccurate ways of thinking and we just assume that that is the right way to think. Or sometimes it happens in school, either way, it's very destructive. It's a very destructive thought pattern because it will affect the quality of your life. And we've talked about several. We talked about all or nothing thinking, which is seeing things from one extreme to the next. Mm-hmm. It's called also black and white thinking. And in that kind of thinking, there's no gray. There's just what I see from my perspective and what I think I see from your perspective. And
is that also called perfectionism?
That's a part of it.
Okay.
Perfectionism is can be involved in several of the different distortions. Okay,
so it's all or nothing thinking that we've covered so far. What's the other one?
Well, let me see. I think we talked a little bit about labeling.
Labeling, yes, we did.
And that's where
reasoning. Okay, go ahead.
Uh-huh.
I was just jumping to emotional reasoning. I remember that we did emotional reasoning, labeling, all or nothing thinking. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where the last one we did.
Right.
And today we're going to do which one?
Jumping to conclusions.
Jumping to conclusion, or also known as fortune telling.
Right? Well, yes. Jumping to conclusion has two parts to it. One part has to do with fortune telling. Mm-hmm. And fortune telling means that we are anticipating the worst thing to happen. Of all the possibilities, the only thing that we can come up with is a horrible thing is going to happen. And then The other one is mind reading. And that's where we think that we know what another person says. And all of these ways of doing, jumping to conclusion, as well as all the other distortion, the one thing they all have in common is that there's no evidence. This is just something that came in your head that you believe, and no one's going to change
Now,
that.
is it that there is always no evidence, or sometimes there is a speck of it, but we just blow it out of proportion? Is it always that there is no evidence?
Well, either the thing is or it isn't. And if it is, you have evidence for it. If you have half evidence, that's not full evidence. And it's very important to look at that, because you will end up with the wrong conclusion. You know, it's kind of like driving a car at night when you can barely see. You're going to miss a whole lot of stuff, and you're going to end up crashing.
Okay, that's pretty graphic. All right, well, I can accept the fact, but I was always thinking that sometimes it's not that there is no evidence, that you may have something that look like it and you just blow it out of proportion, and so it becomes this dominant thing, which really isn't all the truth, but there is some parts of the truth in there, or some of it may exist, but that's not what you're saying.
No. In other words, for instance, let's say I'm walking my dog along the park, in the park, and I'm walking by somebody else, you know, a nice, well-dressed person walking their dog also. And I walk by real quick and I say, hello. And the person doesn't answer me. I'm going to, if I do jump into conclusions, believe that, oh, this person must not think I'm worthy of speaking to. And since they think I'm not worthy of speaking to, well, I'm just going to be angry, and then I'll tell everybody about them. See, there's no half truth to that. Either you know for sure that I don't want to speak to you, and the only way you can do that is if you talk to me. Because in this case, we can say that while I passed by this woman and I said hello and she didn't talk to me, what if she has a hearing problem?
True.
She didn't hear me. And all these things that I've made up about her are absolutely incorrect. So going by perception alone is very, very dangerous.
So how does this topic feed into the overall banner of self-care for the soul? Because that's where the meat of this is. We're trying to hone in on what it means to care for our souls, and how does this loop back into that, this idea of jumping to conclusions or fortune telling?
Yes, care of the soul just means you're taking care of a part of yourself. That's the invisible part of yourself. And yourself is three parts: your body, your soul, which is made up of your mind, your will, your intellect, your emotions, your imagination. And then there's the spirit. So taking care of the soul means that we are emotionally stable, and we can look and assess situations in a way that is accurate, so that we can come up with the right decisions.
Why do you suppose that it's not only until we have a breakdown that we start thinking about self-care for the soul? Why is that?
Well, well, first of all, everybody doesn't do that. Only some people
Okay.
do that. And people who have learned not to care for themselves. And this is not something that they just sat down and decided. You know, if you grew up in a household where there was always fights and arguments and nobody around, even if no one says to you you're a horrible person, if they don't have time for you, you get the message, I'm not important. And if you get the message that I'm not important, then, well, why would you take the time to take care of yourself? Everything and everybody else is going to be more important than you.
It's a great point. You get a silent, it's an implied message that you're not important. Even if somebody doesn't tell you that you're not important, the message is implied and so strong that you believe it
Mhm.
subconsciously. That's what you're saying?
Well, first it's conscious, and then after a while, it goes to subconscious. It's stored in memory, the memory attached to the emotion. And that's why it's so hard to break. That's why it's so hard for people to think about, hey, well, they won't think about it. The way I think is wrong. Of course it's not wrong. I've been living like this all of my life. Now, I can't understand why people don't understand me, but I'm right and they are wrong.
So it just becomes a normal way of thinking. You don't even question it. It's not even a thought of possibly you could be off. It's just your reality.
Right. And so I'm going to give you a few examples because maybe that'll help.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you're on the job.
Right.
And you're passing by and your coworkers are standing around talking about something. And when you pass by, they don't include you. They get quiet.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy for you to jump to conclusion if you have this kind of thinking. It's easy for you to think, oh, they're leaving me out. They don't like me. They're talking about me. And if you
Wow.
think that way and keep that type of attitude, you're not going to be in the in crowd. People will try to avoid you like the plague
Right.
because you end up basically bringing a dark cloud wherever you go. Now, you have no proof, you have no evidence that these folks are talking about you, but you're absolutely convinced that they are. Well, what's the alternative? What's another possibility? A possibility could be they're talking about the boss, not you, and they don't want you to hear.
That's one
They
possibility. Yes.
they could be talking about some health problems that they have. One
Mm-hmm.
person could be sharing a health problems that they're not ready to tell everybody about. You see? So
Right.
that rather than go to they don't like me immediately, at some point in time you have to be able to ask the question, you know, what's going on? I passed and everybody got quiet. What was that all about? You see? Now, if
That
they
requires
tell
some
you,
courage, though.
yes, it does. It does require courage, but it's like you're worth it. We have to be worth it. Otherwise, we're left with inaccurate thinking that interferes with our ability to get along with our coworkers, which can then interfere with our ability to do our job, which could then interfere with our ability to keep the job.
Which then interferes with her attitude, which interferes with her altitude. all looped into each other.
It interferes with our ability to achieve the goals that we have in life. And one of them is to at least hold on to your job until you get whatever else you want that's better. Not to feel that you have to run out of there because it's miserable or get fired.
Mm.
So that's an example of one example of working on the job. Another example could be, let's say you have to go in for your evaluation to your supervisor, and your supervisor sits down and he, before you get there, you have imagined that your supervisor is ready to fire you, because why else would he be calling you in? Why else would he or she be calling you in? And if that day they happen to be distracted or cross, we all can get moody, you will immediately think, they don't like me and they're going to get rid of me.
Put yourself in an anxiety state.
Yes. Well, that's the other thing about inaccurate thinking, and especially jumping to conclusion. It will lead, if you do it constantly, it will lead to anxiety disorders. And one specific disorder is, the social anxiety. People don't like me, that kind of thing.
Wow.
Now, the other way that this jumping to conclusion can affect us is in our interpersonal relationships. Let's say we have a lover, a husband, whatever, boyfriend, something. If we're always trying to guess what they're thinking, we don't have time to listen to what they're thinking. We won't. And if they said it, we wouldn't believe it anyway. No,
Right.
This is what you really meant. You see, you don't like me. That's why you're doing this. You're coming home late because you're having an affair.
Wow. That's definitely self-sabotaging, because you become an accuser because you're jumping to conclusions.
Yes. In other words, you are using your imagination. Remember, that's a part of your soul. You are using your imagination alone to come up with answers in real life without taking evidence into consideration.
Wow. And then it can feel so powerful, like so real, like it's true.
Yes, because it's been an emotional truth for us for a long time. We learn these things early in life, you see? And because it's been repetitive, we believe it. And also, if we happen to think that our behavior defines who we are, then we're going to fight to let go of it. It's kind of like if you think that your job, that you are your job. If you lose your job, then your world falls apart.
Right. Well, I definitely see how in a relationship it can certainly sabotage your altitude, because before you know it, you'll be jumping from one relationship to the next, trying to find Mr. Right. But the truth is, you probably Mrs. Wrong because of the way I'm thinking.
Yes.
Oh wow.
And then the fortune telling part of it has to do with always expecting the worst. Let's say you're going on a job interview. Now, you've been on several job interviews before and you didn't get the job before. But you're assuming before you go to this new job for the interview that you're not going to get it. How do you know you're not going to get it? What are you basing that on? The fact that you had an unfortunate experience before, that's not proof.
So it's one thing to tell yourself a fortune, but if it's a bad fortune, that's what's wrong with it. It could be a good fortune, but usually it's a bad fortune.
Yes, all of it is usually based on things not working out.
You're not worthy of it. Wow. Okay. So can you think of a time when you were a fortune teller that you were able to identify it in yourself?
Well, I'll try to think of it. I try to operate with clarity, with accurate thinking, because the effects of inaccurate thinking is poor relationship and poverty. That's it.
Poor relationships and poverty? Wow.
And poverty, yes. If you're not thinking right, you're not going to be able to make the relationships that you need to make in order to move ahead. You're not going to trust anybody. And
that's worth repeating. That's worth repeating. So inaccurate thinking or fortune telling or
any inaccurate thinking, but
any kind of inaccurate thinking automatically leads to poverty and poor relationships, which are so key to get into our altitude. And that is quite an occasion. Equation, because 1 + 1 = 2. Wow. Poverty and poor relationships.
Right.
And those are really, really significant things in our lives.
This kind of thinking leaves us feeling helpless. And when you feel helpless, it doesn't matter. You could have all the ability in the world.
Right.
But if you don't believe it, you're going to feel horrible, and then you're not going to want to try. You'll find all kinds of reasons and all kinds of things to do that will divert you from doing the very thing that you need to do. For example, let's say you decided that you wanted to, what can you decide you want to do? Maybe you decided you want to change your career. And you're going to take up, you want to become a nurse. That's not something that you can just do. You have to study for that, and you have to study very hard. But now, if you think you're unworthy, even if you push yourself to get into the program, you're going to spend more time worrying about not being able to pass than studying so that you can pass.
And this is all because in the background, this stuff is playing that you may not be aware of, that you are having this
inaccurate thinking. You're not thinking clearly.
But this is such a difficult thing because most people don't realize that we're not thinking clearly. So what's going to tell us that we're not thinking clearly? If this is the way we just think, it's just, how are we going to know? What is going to be the thing that nudges us to say you're not thinking clearly?
Well, the first thing is there is some advantage to certain people to have you thinking unclearly.
Okay.
And that is people who want to control you. It's easy to control somebody who's confused, whether it's an intimate relationship, whether it's on the job, or whether it's part of what your government is doing. when people are clear, they can see what's going on, and whether or not they're happy with it, they will take efforts, they will take steps to improve their situation because they feel that they're worthy of being treated better. But if you are looking for someone else to tell you that, the only someone else that might tell you that is a close friend.
Okay.
Sometimes strangers may tell you, but guess what? You're not going to believe it anyway. You're going to make up things about that person. Oh, they're just saying that because they don't like me.
So how do you encourage someone that you think may be having inaccurate thinking to get the coaching that they need so that they can make the progress towards their altitude? What does that conversation sound like? How do you even initiate it?
Well, the person has to themselves come to the conclusion that they're not thinking accurately. And the only way they can do that is if through a lesson, let's say if you go to college or something and you take up psychology, you learn that, hopefully. If you know a friend who does counseling, they may be able to tell you. And if you're looking at a program like this, the point of this program is just, in my mind, is just to bring awareness, because awareness is a big thing. You can't treat somebody with a program like this. You can only bring awareness to them. And then once you say it to them, if they're paying attention, the next thing they can do is pay attention to very strong feelings. If they have very, very strong feelings, then one of the things that they can do is set time aside to evaluate, what am I thinking? I heard on E Speaks about this business of cognitive distortion. I wonder if I may have something like that. Let me write it down, because the one thing I got out of there was that this is a kind of thinking that's not based on evidence. It's based on anything except reality.
And that's a good plug for, if you're listening, whether live or in the replay, to reach out to our team so that we can get you connected to the resources that can help you to uncover some of these self-sabotaging behaviors or inaccurate thinking patterns that you may have but don't even know that you have. And that's the problem that I've had in the past, not even know that I don't know what I should know. And that requires humility in and of itself, to be able to say, well, it's a possibility that I don't even know that I don't know what I should know, and therefore let me go find out or investigate or put myself in a position, having the posture to say, I don't know everything about me. There are things to be learned. I need to continuously be a student of myself so that I can continue to grow towards my altitude. I think that's a very important posture to have.
Yes.
So this idea of fortune telling is big. I recently had a woman walk up to me and tell me that she wants to read my palm. This is just a little side thing, okay? She's gonna tell me my fortune. And I said to her, well, I don't believe in fortune telling. I didn't say that. I said, I believe in Jesus, And she goes, I believe in Jesus too. And I'm thinking, no, she believes in Jesus. Not the Jesus of the Bible, because he doesn't read palms or he doesn't do fortune telling. But a lot of times people confuse that fortune telling with what you're talking about, right? They probably don't think it's I think because I did a little speech on my channel about fortune telling, and people were very eager to listen because they think I'm talking about the fortune telling where you're foretelling the future. But this is a different type of fortune telling.
Right. Well, I think you brought up an interesting point there, and I would like to, expand on it a little bit. And it has to do with the lady talking about Jesus, that she believed in Jesus and she believed in fortune telling.
Mm-hmm.
There are people who try to merge those two things, but biblically speaking, that is the furthest thing from the truth, because the first king of Israel, Saul, he got himself in a pile of problems by going to a fortune teller. When he was listening, the rule was stay away from those people because those people do not represent God. But when he became disobedient, then he decided to choose to go and see the fortune teller. Okay. Now, faith can play a very important part, and hopefully it does for people who are Christian, because faith says, I believe in God, the I am, not the God of Mother Earth, or not the God of whatever other things people can create, not even yourself, not the God of yourself. Okay. I believe in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. His name is I am. Okay. And what does that mean? He says, I am anything and everything that you need for life. Everything. I have a relationship with you if you want it. I will be your provider. I like that one.
You like that
I
one?
will be your defender. I will be there for you to see you through every situation. Now, if you truly believe that, you don't have to rely on the faith that you can muster up on your own, which, if people don't believe in God, that's what they have to believe in. When you go and you sit and you talk to a secular therapist, they're telling you, have faith in yourself. Have faith in me. And there's some validity to that, but the truth as it's told, based on research, is that secular people only help you to maintain. And there is value in that, okay? Because if you are operating at 20% and you need to be at 70%, there's value in going to get counseling so you can go up to 70%. But God says, I'll take you to 100%. That sounds like a better deal to me. Now, what's the difference? Here's how it works. So if I believe in God, I will have faith. Even though I'm nervous, even though I don't understand, I will believe that He is going to make something happen for me. I recognize that I don't call the shots, okay? Right. But if I take time to find out what He says He will do for me, and I ask for that, He's going to do it. So how does that make me feel? It makes me feel at ease. It makes me feel good. At least 90% of the time. Because, some of the times, no matter how strong you are, you can get shaky, But even 80% of the time, it's pretty good. But God wants 100%, okay? He wants 100%. So
that is a
if
self-care for the soul.
and so if I'm able to feel good, then I have hope.
Right.
And when I have hope, I can then go and work. And I will work and work and work and work until I find a solution that works.
Right.
However, if I have faith in things not working out, that's going to leave me feeling at least anxious. And if that anxiety goes on too long, it turns into an anxiety disorder. And then it could turn into depression. Well, how much does a depressed person want to do? Not very much.
Nothing.
All they want to do
Nothing.
is isolate and get away. And that ensures that you're not going to be getting along with other people. You're not going to be reaching your goals. If all you can do is drag yourself out of the bed and put on your clothes and drag yourself to work, good that you have a 9 to 5, because it certainly won't work if you have your own business. Because in your own business, you have to make decisions. And if you're incapacitated, you're going to make the wrong decisions, and that's going to lead to poverty.
And there goes the altitude.
That altitude flew out the window.
Wow. Wow. This is like I said, a worthy conversation. I wish more people would come to the table just to ask the questions and pick your brain.
Well,
there's so much
maybe we can open it up. I don't know if people are able to either text you or ask a question, but I'm wondering if anybody out there has had any kind of experience with either family member, friends, or co-workers, or yourself. If you had, and you can share it, that would help the other listeners to understand a little bit better what this is all about.
I find that a lot of times people are scared, or they feel inhibited to share these kinds of things because the stigma that surrounds mental health and wellness. And so the part of the purpose of this platform is speaks is to get people to speak about the things that matter, so that they can uncover and discover and explore, and should give voice really to some of those things that traditionally people are afraid to talk about, or feel inhibited about, or ashamed to talk about. It's just such an important conversation to have. So you can put in a chat, or you can send us an email at contact us at eSpeaks. But tonight we really just wanted to focus on how this specific self-sabotage, fortune telling, or jumping to conclusions can really derail your growth. And since here our focus is to heal, aspire, and grow, we're always going to be having these kind of conversations. So you can certainly reach out here, and you can reach Dr. Brown via this platform as well. So you feel free to do that should you feel so compelled.
Let me add one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Let me add one thing that might make it a little bit easier for everyone. So, inaccurate thinking, cognitive distortions in and of itself is not a mental health disorder. It can lead to disorders, and it becomes a disorder if that way of thinking interferes with your ability to function. See? But it's not labeled mental health disorder, just so people can know.
Okay, well, that's helpful. So don't be thinking you're crazy, because you should be thinking I'm crazy because I'm having this inaccurate thinking. Is that what you're saying, doctor?
Yeah, you're not crazy, but it can lead to crazy results that you don't want.
Nice answer. You're not crazy, but it can lead to crazy results that you don't want. I like the part where it can lead to poverty and poor relationships. I mean, that would stay with me because I understand the value of good relationships, and I certainly don't like to be poor. So, very helpful. We're going to wrap it up now. Let me just implore you once again to reach out to us here at the East Speaks platform, where our focus is to heal, aspire, and grow. Schedule your personalized consultation. And thank you so much for joining us this evening. If you have any last thoughts, Dr. Brown, now is the time to do it. And we're going to wrap it up for tonight.
Yeah, maybe I can give a few little tips until
Okay.
they get ready to call, okay? So set up a time to sit down and think about this stuff. Don't even wait to get extremely emotional. You shouldn't take more than about 30 minutes, okay? When you take that time, you can write. This will be about something that you have some strong feeling about, so write about it. And when you write about it, try and see, is this just my opinion? Is this the opinion of people that I respect, that I kept for a long time, and I think it's real? If it's not their opinion, if it's not my opinion, where is the evidence to support this kind of thinking? Now, once you write all the things down, try to separate what things can I manage and what things can I not manage. And for the things that I can manage, let me do problem solving. Rather than worry, let me sit down and try and figure out how can I solve this problem. You can also cope with this by do meditation, do prayer. You can go for a walk. The bottom line is to do anything that distracts you from continuing to think that way. And then you can also make it a habit to take care of yourself. And a part of that is what you say to yourself, If you're saying positive things to yourself, then you'll feel better. If you're saying negative things to yourself, then you're not going to feel very well. Now, if this situation is at a point where it's seriously interfering with your ability to function, like you've gotten so anxious that you can't get up and go to work, you're so depressed, at that point, you need a therapist, cognitive behavioral therapist.
And at that point, you can certainly reach out and I'll connect you with Dr. Brown. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you for those tips. They're definitely helpful. And we'll see you next time when we talk about the next self-sabotaging behavior that may be impeding our altitude. Go ahead, click the link that will be displayed in this broadcast and send in your questions. Have a good evening. And thank you once again, Dr. Brown. We appreciate your presence.